Smooth, quiet, beautiful. There's nothing quite like a sailboat underway, on the water, that is. On land, the 64 is the smoothest, quietest riding Pontiac automobile ever offered to the car-buying public. You've seen the new Pontiacs, so you're well aware of the styling sales appeal. It's even better than last year's record-breaking acceptance. But the biggest news this year is the quiet, smooth ride. It's hard to put in words, but it's something you can very definitely experience once you get underway in the car. The Pontiac is not just a little bit quieter and smoother than other makes. It's very noticeably quieter and easier riding. You've always known that the best sales technique you can use is to get a prospect in the car to drive it. But this year, well, it'll be a real clincher. And that goes for all the Pontiacs, from the Tempest to the Grand Prix. I'm sure you'll agree that the first impact when you look at a Pontiac is excellent, better than other makes, and that means a lot. This is true of the Tempest Custom, the LeMans, the Catalina, the Star Chief, the Bonneville, and the Grand Prix. Every Pontiac model in every series has clean, pleasing styling, not only at first glance, but styling that looks even better as you study it. Another thing, every Pontiac model looks like a Pontiac, even from quite a distance. Pontiacs are easily identified. They're new and distinctively different, from the front or the rear, but they're Pontiacs, first and last. Have you noticed the heavy wraparound full bumpers on the Tempest? I'm sure you have, but that's just a small measure of the new Pontiac Tempest series. The Tempest has really grown this year, from 194.3 inches overall length to a big 203 inches, an increase of over 8½ inches. As you well recognize, this new size gives you a brand new market, and a sizable one at that. Of course, the size is just one thing in many. The whole car is brand new from stem to stern. Take the standard engine for the Tempest and LeMans series. An all-new Pontiac-built, inline, 215 cubic inch, 6-cylinder overhead valve engine, and it delivers 140 horsepower for top power and performance, combined with outstanding economy. The car is heavier and more substantial for improved ride and stability. Compensating for the heavier car is the larger engine to give performance exceeding previous Tempest standards. Now for the glamour engines. In keeping with Pontiac's deserved reputation for power, 2 V8 engine options are available for the Tempest. A 2-barrel, 326 cubic inch V8 that delivers 250 horsepower, and a comparable version of this regular Pontiac engine at 280 horsepower with a 4-barrel carburetor. Both engines have had overall refinements. Increased compression ratio, a new die-cast water pump for lighter weight, and the 4-barrel carburetor has incorporated an internal venting design for improved hot and cold weather starting. Both carburetors have improved sealing and resistance to flooding through the use of Viton needle tips on the 2-barrel and Viton needle seats on the 4. As you've seen, the Tempest series offers a complete line of really top-notch trims. This car is a Pontiac, inside and out. Door jamb light switches and cigar lighters are standard. A tilt steering wheel is offered as optional equipment, and power steering is the same as in more expensive models, not the booster type. Comfortable? People are going to get the surprise of their life when they sit in this car. For one thing, there's a better relationship between the steering column and the seat. And the gas pedal is recessed, so you can stretch out both of your legs to the same position. And notice the swept floor design for ease of entry and exit. Step down for maximum chair height and seating comfort. As an additional comfort option, your prospect can have extra-duty seat springs and foam rubber. And as a matter of fact, the whole seat frame can be moved forward to clinch a sail to a prospect short in height. The interior of the car is roomier than ever. Shoulder room increased 4 inches over last year's car, and hip room increased almost 2 inches. Overall width is the same. The curved side glass is more than beautiful. It reduces wind noise level appreciably. And now, let's move on to the most important part of the sales story, ride. Your prospects just won't believe how great this car is until you show them. It's the only way. But once they sail along smooth and quiet as silk, they'll be ready to sign on the dotted line. This is such an advance. You should know the whole story. Before I go on, let me say one thing. The whole Pontiac line is significantly improved in quietness and smooth ride this year, not just the Tempest series. Quiet and smooth. It's across the board. Now, here's why the Tempest has improved so greatly. First of all, the wheelbase is longer, 3 inches over 1963 for 115 inches. So your ride automatically gets better. Next, we were able to maintain good car weight distribution. And then, as you know, we no longer have an integral body construction. We now have a separate frame, just as in the other Pontiac series. And this allows us to better isolate vibration and road disturbances from the passenger compartment, isolate transmission and engine noises. And further, and this is a big advance, we've added rigidity to the frame, even out beyond the wheels. Now, this was not available with the integral frame. It gives more structural integrity. So we've got a properly tuned frame. The next consideration is joining the frame to the body in a way to isolate any transmission of noise. Now, there's no one answer to quietness and ride. Everything has to fit together, just like trimming the sails on a sailboat for maximum performance. Now, we use thick, pillow-soft, butyl rubber body mounts. A total of 14 mounts strategically placed for best performance. A frame properly tuned with soft mounts provides a quiet, vibration-free ride. Now, continuing with ride characteristics, the Tempest has a completely new independent front suspension system with different shock absorber valving and spring loads for each model combination to further tune the ride to the specific model. Rear suspension, just about the same design that has proved so noteworthy on the more expensive Pontiacs. It's interesting to note that well-tuned shocks and springs and rear suspension overall geometry provide for quick and sportier handling. The new 3-speed synchromesh transmission is front-mounted, as is the new 4-speed transmission, both redesigned to be quieter and smoother. The vacuum electric controlled automatic transmission is a torque converter, full hydraulic type, available for all engines, and it's all new. For the 6, it's air-cooled. For the V8, it's water-cooled. In other words, here again, the component is designed to best meet the operating conditions and give smoother, quieter shifts with minimum vibration and maximum performance. And now you're beginning to see some of the different kinds of engineering effort that have gone into making this car the quietest, best riding car in its class. But there's a lot more. Take the new Pontiac-built 6-cylinder engine. You already know about its performance and economy, but consider what it means in quiet, vibration-free operation. A 6 is inherently smooth and quiet. That's why we came out with a new, modern, inline 6, lighter and smoother for a better ride. One last reminder, an inline 6 can be perfectly balanced. A V6 is inherently unbalanced and rough. And you know something else? Our 6 is lighter than most V6s being used. And now, the larger chassis being used on the more expensive Pontiac series. Here again, we set out to make the car quieter and even smoother in ride. And we've succeeded. The body mounts have been changed to a pillow-soft type of butyl rubber, a softer connection for less transmission of noise and an easier ride. To go along with this, we've used a heavier gauge steel in the frame between the wheels, made the frame more rigid to minimize any shaking. These two improvements, more rigid frame and softer mounts, give a softer feeling car to reduce fatigue on long trips. To complete the picture, shock absorber valving has been tuned to the suspension system. As a byproduct of the stronger frame, I might add that we have achieved better isolation of noise transmission into the body. And don't forget, we still have wide track with its proven sales appeal. It gives us more room for suspension components, easier to build, and thus assurance for a good ride. And it's easier to maintain. One more thing. A significant design change in the universal joints will help give a smoother, quieter drivetrain. The new joints are perfectly balanced, and they'll keep the prop shaft centered and vibration-free, even after extended usage. Automatic transmissions, roto-hydromatic for the Catalina and Grand Prix, super-hydromatic for Star Chief and Bonneville, will continue to team up with some of the most powerful engines in the business for top performance and a smooth, quiet ride. Now you've seen some of the engineering advances that have gone into making this year's Pontiac the smoothest, quietest riding car on the road. Rigid frame, soft body mounts, quiet transmissions and engines. There's one more major area of significant improvement: insulation. When everything possible has been done to eliminate noise at the source or by body mounts, insulation takes over. Last year's Bonneville was quiet. This year's model is the quietest car on the road. The loudest noise you can hear at 60 miles per hour is the Rolls Royce you're passing. And the Bonneville treatment has been extended throughout the complete Pontiac line, including the Tempest series. As a matter of fact, there's more insulation in the Tempest than there is in most other full-size cars. For example, every model but the Catalina Synchromesh has a molded fiberglass hood pad, contoured to fit the curve of the hood and get in the cavity areas where the air used to rush around. Floor insulation has been increased by adding additional mastic deadener and providing more complete coverage of the jute. Insulation has been relocated to do a better job. To give you an idea of how great an emphasis was placed on quietness, speedometer cables now have a plastic liner. CV seals have been lengthened and designed to minimize wind whistle. And a flexible coupling steering shaft is used on all Pontiacs for better isolation of road shock and vibration. Pontiac, it's smooth and quiet. I haven't spent too much time on the Pontiac models above the LeMans series. Basically, they will be style leaders again this year with improved performance. There are a couple of advances I'd like to point out. The electric seat adjusters are significantly improved through the use of screw jacks instead of linkages and levers. And for the first time, a factory-installed Electro-Cruise automatic speed control device is offered to maintain desired speeds. But the big news is quiet, smooth performance in all Pontiacs. Of course, there are many, many other new advances, too. I'll go over some of the most interesting ones sales-wise. All of these apply to the complete Pontiac line, from the Tempest to the Grand Prix. Rubber lip seals are used on windows instead of the old-style fuzzy material. These seals help keep dust from being drawn around the windows and into the car. They prevent most water from getting down into the door panels, and they help keep wind noise around the window at a minimum. And here's a change the Tempest buyers will appreciate. All Tempests now include keyless door locks. No more walk-arounds to lock the doors on a '64 Tempest. Sunshade pivots have been improved by adding a nylon sleeve that retains its efficiency almost indefinitely. No more flopping sunshades. The right-hand sunshade is now standard on all Tempests. Extended lube life ball joints of phenolic Teflon are permanently greased to give many thousands of miles with no problem. The Tempest series offers a completely new brake system with larger diameter drums and wider brake shoes, increased durability and performance. The effective lining area is increased by 38%. All series will have a hermetically sealed brake master cylinder to prevent dirt or water contamination of the hydraulic brake fluid. The heater and optional air conditioners for the Tempest series are the finest available. The humidity-controlling reheat custom air conditioner that we pioneered on the 1963 Pontiac will be used on the 1964 Tempest. One big point, the Tempest will have 5 air conditioning outlets, as opposed to only 3 in other comparable makes. All series will offer a rear window defogger as an option. Illumination, the best in the business. It's uniform and allows rapid viewing by the driver. All instrument panel lights have been upgraded for longer life, as have the lamp bulbs in the tail and stop lamps. Headlamp filaments are also heavier for the low beam and the high beam. That very briefly covers just a few of the engineering advances common to the whole Pontiac line. The Pontiac for 64 is a great performer, and the styling is even better than 63, as you've seen. The Tempest series is obviously new and different. But still, the biggest news of all is the quiet, smooth ride in all Pontiacs. The only way to let this exclusive feature sell for you is to get the prospect in the car for a test ride. Let me give you an idea of what he'll know after a few minutes. I'm going to play 2 recordings for you, both recorded by a microphone hanging at driver's ear level in cars underway. The first is from a 1963 Tempest. The second from a 1964 Tempest. Listen. Pretty remarkable difference, wasn't it? Now listen to the comparison between the 1963 and 1964 Bonneville. First the 63, then the 64. Believe me, your prospect, no matter which Pontiac model he's in, will know he's in the quietest, smoothest car on the road. Now, I'd like to conclude by asking one question. Why does Pontiac have one of the highest resale values in the industry? The answer lies in our depth of value approach to engineering and manufacturing. By this, we mean attention to every detail, no matter how minor. Take our 1964 Catalina and Bonneville convertibles, for example. They are the only convertibles offered with a fiber pad insulated top in the header area. This eliminates high-speed wind noise. You can carry on a normal conversation in a Pontiac convertible at 60 miles an hour. It's actually quieter than most competitive sedans at this speed. Listen to a tape recording of a 64 Bonneville convertible. Now listen to the sound of a 63 Cadillac convertible. Now the Bonneville again. There's your difference. And consider this. Starting with the 1963 model, Pontiac was the only convertible to offer a coat hook. A small item, but typical of the thought that goes into our products. This same attention to detail has been applied to all of our cars. It is the reason that every one of your prospects can have no doubt that when he buys a 1964 Pontiac, he'll have smooth sailing.